First, Josie, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. I'm good. I'm doing not too bad. I had my birthday yesterday, so I feel really
Okay,
old.
happy birthday.
Thanks. Just turned 20. No, I've just turned 20, so I'm feeling a bit old.
Really?
About
You're making me feel old now. I wanted to start with, I don't know if there's a good way to start, but the washing machine and sliced bread, what did it ever do to you?
I think that was my manifestation of disliking the boy in question. So I took the washing machine. I took all my anger out on the washing machine. It's all right. The washing machine was dead already. No washing machines were harmed. Well, they were, but they were dead. So it kind of doesn't count.
And then kind of what I wanted to get into was this approach of not only DIY, which I suppose is kind of a necessity these days, but to approach things with a bit of humor. How important is that for you?
So important. I mean, I absolutely adore my job. I'm so lucky that I get to do this like on a day-to-day basis, and I get to make stupid videos and run around my garden like smashing up washing machines. So, and also like it, because I love my job, I just want to, invite that little bit. I want people to know and see that I love my job, like it's like, and those songs, they're fun. I love singing them. I feel really sassy and like I've got a lot of attitude, and I feel very attached to my 15-year-old self when I sing them. So I just feel like it has to come forward in the videos and things like that I'm having a lot of fun, because I am. And yeah, and it's genuine happiness because of smash up. I mean, like, I get paid to do that.
This 15-year-old self, is that around the time that you started writing music and putting thoughts to paper?
Yeah, kind of. I think the earliest song that I ever wrote was probably about 13, maybe a little bit earlier than that, but like it was nothing good at all. Like I mean, I didn't write anything decent up until about the age of 16, and even then I'm still like, well, most of it was pretty rubbish, but I managed to get a good couple of songs out, like Sliced Bread, which I wrote when I was 16. So I have been writing for a while, but yeah, no, nothing good came out. So a lot of my songs are attached to that sort of age, because like, I mean, when you're 16, that's what you write about, being 16. You can't. I wasn't very wise for my years, clearly. I just was writing very plain-faced, box standard surface writing, me as a 15-year-old.
Yeah, but they were true to you at the time, right? So
oh, sure. And I love singing them because of that, because like when I sing them, I'm like, oh my God, I remember the feeling of like writing this and like playing it for the first time and all these different things that like I've done with that song. Like it just, I love performing it because it just reminds me of that. And I just feel like I can be a bit of like a 15-year-old when I sing it.
And can you see the development then, or hear the development as well with where you are now and kind of what you've made in between?
Yeah, oh my God, it's really strange, because I didn't even, I mean, before getting into the music industry, I really had no idea about the music industry whatsoever. I kind of landed in it not by chance, but by sort of, I never thought I would do it as full time, because I didn't think that I could, and I thought it was going to be too hard, and I thought that, I wasn't good enough and all these different things. And so I always kind of had it as a side project, like just a hobby. And I sort of ended up in the music industry because I was enjoying so much writing music with people. I spent so much time in my second year of college writing that I ended up having 60% attendance. So I flunked my second year of college. Like basically I had no opportunities other than music. So I had to just go with that and see what happened. But yeah, no, so I've noticed that from that like early writing, where I was doing it as sort of like a hobby and then moving into doing it like full time. I mean, this past year I've been writing like so much, but realizing that artists write stuff and then release it like 3 years later most of the time. Like it's like I never knew that was how it worked. And so going into the music industry, knowing that I'd written Sliced Bread when I was 16 and releasing it when I was 19. I released it when I was 19. Releasing it when I was 19, I was like so confused, because I was like, but this doesn't reflect how I'm writing now, which doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad song. It just isn't like, where I'm at now. And now I'm writing stuff that I'm, hoping to release late next year or the year after that. And I just like the progress that I'm hoping to make in that time is going to be so vast. Like it blows my mind a little bit because the stuff that I'm releasing is old news to me. I'd like to release. The only one song that I released pretty much as I wrote it was Thank You, because I wrote it as when we went into lockdown. I wrote it, recorded it, and it basically just was like, oh, let's just release it. So that came out in between the EPs. That's the only one that I've released sort of like on time. Okay.
Well, before we get into Thank You, because I want to ask you about that song, but you mentioned kind of initially thinking, well, maybe this whole pursuing music thing is too difficult and you described this in VTech really well as well. But what kind of pushed you over the edge? Was it just the absence of anything else?
Well, no, it wasn't. I say it like that because I think I'm cool saying it like that, but it really wasn't. It was more that basically I was trying to do it and I wanted to do it, but in my head it was always like, but I'll go to university first and I'll get like a degree in something that will mean that, because there's so many other things that I would have loved to have done. Right. It just happened to be music was also one of them. And I was happy to go to university, but it kind of got to this like point where everyone was applying for universities. And I was like, I can't see myself there. I can't see myself in halls. I can't see myself learning about stuff. I enjoy writing. And that's sort of what then went there. But a lot of it came from the fact that I'd had people tell me that it wasn't necessarily for me and all these different things. And I was like, well, I'm going to prove you wrong, obviously, because that's what I do. That's been my motivation for most of my things that have happened in life. I went to college and took all of my college courses because someone told me I wasn't clever enough to do it. And then I wanted to apply to like Oxbridge and like Cambridge and Oxford because I was like, because someone had said that I couldn't do it. So I was like, I'm going to do it. So most of my life has been propelled by my like ridiculous pettiness, basically. So yeah, so that was a massive play in my want for being in the music industry. But yeah, other than that, it was a lot to do with the fact that I came out of college with the grades that were all right. They weren't bad, but they weren't what I wanted. Mm-hmm. And I'd had 60% attendance, and I just basically went, well, I can't see myself sitting in a classroom for the next 3 years. So let's try this and see what happens. And I've always said to myself, I'll give myself 2 or 3 years, and then I could always go back to university later if it all else fails. But I'm enjoying it, and it seems to be going all right. So.
But that's the thing, and I hear this more often when people are thinking about pursuing music. It's often perceived as somewhat of a risk, or people say, well, that's not a real job, that's not something.
Even now when I'm doing it and I'm being paid to do it, and like I'm like it's just like I'm working, like I'm doing like 9 to 5 day jobs, like there's stuff to do, and people right. still turn around to me and they go, yeah, so like, what are your plans if this all fails? And I'm like, do you have a plan if you get fired from your job? Do you have a secondary job lined up? No one does that. Like, this is my job. And if it doesn't work, I'll figure it out.
How defeatist would that be if you just go into anything just thinking that it will end at any time? Or
yeah, with a plan B. In fact, I kind of like the sort of reckless, let's not have any plan Bs and we'll figure that out when it will get there.
But then the song Thank You is, I suppose, also dedicated to the people who did believe in it and were supportive. So what gave you the urge to write that song?
It's so literal. I mean, it literally was because I was thinking about a memory that I have. It's a very vivid memory of when I was I think I must have been about 6 years old, and I was in the park that's across from my grandma's house. And there was a little boy there, and he was from, like, I knew him somehow, and I can't remember who he is, but I knew him somehow. And he was the first person to ever tell me that I was funny. And I've never heard, I mean, since then, no one says I'm funny. It's not like sometimes you meet people and you're like, they're a funny person and everyone tells them they're really funny and you enjoy but I've never seen myself as funny, but I've always had in the back of my head, I must be a little bit funny because when I was 6 years old, someone told me I was. So I've always had that that little, like, I don't know, boost of confidence from, like, you know, such a, like, a silly, I think that was probably that was probably this, like, last time I saw this boy. I have no idea who he is. And it just came from that, because it was like this idea that, like, there are so many people in this world that, like, must have heard my voice, or, like, I must have said something to, even, like, just, like, cashiers in shops and things like that, or conversations I've had with people at bus stops. Like, so many people must have actually spoken to me, and I will never ever be able to account for all of those different people, because I've no idea who they are, and I would never have, like, stayed in contact. Can you imagine if you had, like, a book of, like, the people that you've spoken to? It'd be endless, especially for me, to talk too much.
Well, it's in a way that's what I'm not into it, but that's what social media is, right? It's kind of this open gateway to so many people.
It is. I've got people on social media, again, like, I've met, like, once, and I've like, you know, people that I met on holiday, like, I've got them on my social media, and I see what their lives are like, and every now and then we have a quick conversation, and I think that's amazing. Like, that is the best part of social media. The rest of them, that bit's the great part.
Well, let's get into the music a little bit more then, because you did release Pop Songs Volume 1. Now, kind of looking back at that collection of songs, how do you feel about it now?
It's really hard, because those songs were, like I said, they were really old. So looking back, I mean, I've had 3 Words and Sliced Bread and Beat It Lily Allen have been around for years. I've been gigging with them years and years. And it was, and Wales, Burner was new. I absolutely love that song. It's one of my favorites. Burner was relatively new. Wales was about a year old. That's it, isn't it? That's all of them.
Well, let's talk about Burner then. You mentioned Burner, and that is one of your favorites. What is it about that song? Is it the lyrics? Is it just the way it sounds?
I think it's because I believe in every song that I've written, sure. And I love, like, you know, singing them, because they are words literally straight from my mouth, and I mean everything that I say in them. But, like, Burner for me is just so, it's just a lot of, like, anger just released when I sing that song, because I feel like it literally came about because I was ranting about something to my co-writer Ben, and we were just, you know, going, just absolutely getting, and he was just sat there writing notes, and then we wrote the song, and it was really easy to write the song because we were just ranting. I was so angry, and I had so much, like, you know, and then I think I think it's sort of just found this, like, little divot in my heart, and just sort of, like, clung onto it, because there's something about that song that just makes me feel like I'm releasing energy and I'm just expelling stuff, and it feels great. So
is that in essence what music and songwriting is for you, to get these kind of process certain thoughts?
100%. I really struggle to write. Like, I have tried it. I have tried writing sort of, like, metaphorical songs, or, like, things that are a bit more poetic, and you know, there are some things that I've done that I really enjoy writing like that. But the majority of my songs come straight from my train of thought. It's literally just my vocabulary. That's why people always say when I meet them, they're always like, "Oh my gosh, you talk just like your songs," and I'm like, a strange comment. Like, I just feel like that's very normal for me, but it does make sense, because a lot of people won't talk like their songs. There's so many people that write songs that are so beautiful and written in such a, like, a poetic and metaphorical sense, that are gorgeous, but they wouldn't speak like it. Whereas when I talk exactly how I speak in my songs, because it's just brain to paper, essentially. And it is definitely cathartic. Like, you know, when I'm feeling like an intense emotion, I do feel like I'm like, oh, I should write something about this. I should write something about that.
And then, is it just your personality then that you take it through this, because you deal with breakups, relationships, all kinds of things that we encounter in life? But is for you the first inspiration always kind of humorous, or always kind of, I'm not taking myself too seriously?
I don't take most of the situations have all got a bit of a poetic license. You know, I make it up a little bit just to add a bit of embellishment and things like that. But it does the majority of my songs stem from like ideas or like stupid existential crises that I have. Like it stems from something that I've been thinking about. I actually have a notebook. I've got a stack of notebooks because I write everything. I write all my songs in notebooks, and I've got a stack of notebooks. And in every notebook, in the first few pages, there's like a list of song ideas. And so what I do is I come up with, if I'm thinking about something too much, I write it in the list of song ideas. And then when I go into a session, I go through the list of song ideas and I go, oh, okay, I wanted to write a song about this, or I wanted to write a song about that. And I think I try to write songs in concepts more than sort of like more than sort of like sound wise. Like in my head, it's a story, or it's like a piece of information that needs to be said, you know, rather than sort of like the sounds.
Sure.
Making the sound sound good and catchy, which I'm now learning comes into it, and you do that afterwards. But like for me, it's definitely I'm a lyric first kind of gal.
And well, is it a very what is it like sharing those lyrics then? Because they are very personal. You think about these concepts, and especially if you go back to when you first started sharing these songs, was that very natural to you?
I'm definitely like I'm definitely an oversharer in most senses. There are some parts of my life that I am like massively kind of not secretive about, but private about, and I don't speak about them as much. And I like that there are certain, like I have written songs about certain parts of my life that I've always been like, that should never be released. I don't want to show that to anybody. You know, like I don't like that. These are things that I keep to myself. But I think that's kind of important in this day and age, because a lot of music is turning into this wonderful thing. I don't think it's a negative. It's turning into this wonderful thing where it's artist first rather than genre or album or single. It's more like you buy into an artist, and if you enjoy them and their personality and what they stand for, then you enjoy their music, you know, and things like that. And rather than necessarily the you know, it being in genres, and you sort of like, well, the top of the genre is this, and then they were supported by this person and so on, which I love this idea. But it's very important because of that to keep certain parts of your life private, and to respect people's privacy as well, because at the end of the day, all artists are people. And it's definitely, I mean, it's not like I even have like a huge following, but as soon as you start to have a following, you start to realize that the things that you say and the things that you talk about and post and sing about will have an impact, and you have to be careful and promote what you believe in. You know, you can't be too reckless with what you say.
Yeah, hopefully I'm not trying too much then now, but you mentioned you always write out of concepts. So what has been something that has been on your mind in the last couple of days or weeks?
Definitely lockdown has got to me in the past like sort of week. I think I've been feeling it more. I think because of the run up to my birthday and realizing that on my birthday I'm not going to see any of my friends or any of my family. I also have just moved out, so I've just moved out and into a house with my boyfriend and my housemate, and I'm 2 hours away from all my family and friends, which is like absolutely fine in usual circumstances, because even just the idea that I'm only 2 hours away and I can pop down and see them is fine. But when you're in lockdown and you suddenly are in a new house in a new city, you know, away from all of your friends, all of your family, you can't even pop down to see them, socially distanced. You know, there's nothing. Especially working as well, working every day inside. I definitely have felt it over the past few days. And in fact, it came out of my songwriting. So there's a session a couple of days ago, I wrote a song about travel, because I'm so desperate to get out of England and go and traveling and do something, because I think it's this like stagnant sort of, I don't know, sitting down that's getting to me. But yeah, definitely that.
Well, that gets me to the video for Wales then, because that's about getting out of here. And then it reminded me of when I was younger, we used to go to those kind of places and then hike through the mountains and stuff. So it brought back a lot of good memories. But yeah, I don't think it's Wales in particular, but what was it about kind of getting out of, and the fact that we can do it now, getting out of your own bubble and seeing some new places?
I'm a very, like, I've always been a very adventurous person. I struggle to understand people that literally can be born grow up and live in one place for the whole of their life. I'm such a little hermit. Like I just sort of like, I just want to move constantly. I'm always looking for something new. I love change. I love doing new things. I love moving. I love, it excites me. And I haven't settled. I think I'm more of a country girl than I am a city girl, but I would no qualms living in a city. I haven't done that yet, and I'd love to at some point. Me and my boyfriend bought a van because we're converting it into a camper to basically go traveling in at some point, which would be so cool. But it is, I think it's a little bit of that, it's just, everyone's got it. It's that little bit of that fear of being average, fear of being sort of just good enough, So I just am constantly like, I need to be doing something more. I want more. It's definitely a negative at some points, especially. Yeah,
I was going to say, is it kind of the fear of missing out thing?
Oh, massively. It's such I'm incredibly self-critical to the point where I can understand why that is a very big problem, but it's a benefit. In lockdown, it's not been great because obviously I'm constantly like, oh, I need to go do something else. I want to go traveling. I want to do something else. But in life, it's sometimes useful because it means that I'm constantly moving. But there are definitely negatives, like fear of missing out is such a silly fear, like it's just such a strange concept, which is totally fueled by social media and by the society's way of looking at like friends and all this stuff, and it's all rubbish anyway. But I definitely, it's a positive and a negative, but it makes me want to do more. So I do think
I would think then having that side of yourself, that's the one that's what pushed you to pursue this whole music thing. Otherwise, I'm way too reserved to do something like that. So I would say, no, that's not for me. And like you did in the beginning. So it's good that you have that side, that adventurous side, because otherwise, I suppose, I don't think people would do the things they do.
Yeah, I don't know if it's adventurous or reckless.
It's fine line.
There's a very fine line.
When it comes to the album then, in 2021, what do you hope people will hear in it?
I hope that people will hear my brain and my thought processes and my perspectives and my opinions. And I hope that they'll listen to it and go, oh, yeah, no, that's a new way of saying that, or that's a new way of thinking that, or I hadn't thought of that, or even, oh my God, yeah, no, I feel like that too. I love that when people message me and they say, oh my God, I've been trying to explain this feeling for years, and you've put it in a song and all that. That's just the best, because there's so much that like goes on in people's heads that's so similar. I mean, you see it. It's just like people, you are never, ever, ever alone in how you're thinking, your thought process, everything that you're going through has always been done before. And I think that music and art is like a massive part of connecting those dots and helping people understand that and realize that stuff. So I'd love to do that, but also to have loads of fun and make some really friggin' cool music videos and do some cool photo shoots to get some cool photos and do crazy stuff, and yeah, that stuff too.
Are you in that sense very ambitious? You mentioned that you do have a tendency to want to prove people wrong. So
I'm incredibly ambitious, much to my own dismay, because it bites me in the bum quite a lot. But definitely massively ambitious. My head is always a million miles away, thinking about what I could be doing and where I'm going next. And I think that, like, in the sense of music, it's great because it's been pushing me quite a lot. I mean, it's kept me on a bit of a roller coaster this whole year. But again, it's another thing. I mean, we all know ambition can bite you in the bum, but it's been very useful. Yeah, I'm a massively ambitious person.
It's difficult to put this into words, maybe, and it's not one of those questions where do you see yourself in 5 years, but what is the ambition?
The ambition for me is to, in my head, just write I just want to write really good songs. And I think that like I'm constantly in sessions, I'm constantly thinking, I could do a better song than this. I know I can do better. And the thing is that in my head, I can see myself in the, like, you know, in 5 years time being a really good songwriter because I'm going to work hard to do it. And like, I can see that, and I've just got to put the effort into that. It's all about, you know, it's practice. The more you do something, the better you get at it. It doesn't matter, you know, sort of who you are, that's how it works. So, and I definitely believe in hard work over talent a million times, because I don't,
yeah, it's interesting that you say that, because there's a line that actually says that, right? It's in BTC Liliana. I don't believe in God-given talent. So it's very much about the effort you put in.
Yeah, no, I totally don't believe in God-given talent. I think, I mean, it's absolutely no disregard to anyone who's ever said that I'm talented, because it's a beautiful compliment. Sure. And it's a lot. But in my head, talent is like God-given talent, or like birthright talent. It's great, and you can be very, very good at something because you were born to do it, but it will never, ever, ever trump hard work. And for me, you know, if you work at something, which I have been working on music, even if it was as a hobby, I've been working on it since I was 14. You know, if you work hard, you do good. You put practice in, you do good. It's like, it's science, isn't it? You know, the more you do something, the better you get at it. So for me, it's that ambition of like, the more I do it, the better I get. And I would love to write an album that I come out of and I go, like, you know, every single song on that album was the best of my abilities. Mm-hmm. And at that point, I think I'd be like, time to put the songwriting pencil down. I think I'd be like, let's just stop there and do something else.
Well, final question then. When it comes to writing songs and the way you describe it now, the pursuit being in essence the perfect song, and this is again a vague question, but what to you constitutes a perfect song?
Manhattan by Sarah Bareilles is a perfect song. That's a perfect song. What other songs are perfect songs? Vienna, Billy Joel, that's a perfect song. There are songs, and it's not necessarily perfection, because, and it's not in the sense that most people think. It's not a perfect vocal. It's not a perfect guitar. It's just something. And I feel like I'm almost there, like, and not in the sense that I feel like I'm writing perfect songs. That sounds really big-headed, but like, I mean, like, I feel like, you know, there are songs that I've written that I'm like, oh, like that's how you do that, or that's how you do that. And I'm like, that, like, you know, that feeling of feeling happy with a song, like really happy, like that. I'm almost there with a few of the songs that I've written, and I'm hoping that I'll have that for the next 5 years or for next however long, until I write stuff that I'm just consistently thinking, this is good. This is exactly how I wanted this to be heard. And that's, it's difficult. I mean, you know, there is no perfect song. And I think I probably will be working forever if I just went for that. And I'm very, like, I mean, I'm very happy to put out songs that aren't perfect, because that doesn't, I don't believe that affects the value of a song. But I do think that, like, there'll come a point where I think I'll feel content with the way that I'm putting across my ideas, and if an album can be heard in the way that I intended it to be heard, then I guess that's perfect.
Okay, sounds good. All right, Josie, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me.
Thank you very, very much for having me. It's been great.